the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you compliments of KFC. It's finger-licking good. First, the highlights. The CARICOM Secretariat will soon be supplying the Guyana Power and Light with extra solar-generated electricity. And the Prime Minister is denying that the National COVID-19 Task Force is ignoring certain mass-attended events that are associated with the government. And in the region, a Trinidad and Tobago policeman has been charged with misbehavior in public office after a rifle and ammunition went missing. And the Bahamas government is not in a hurry to reopen schools. Details of these and other stories in a moment.
After a hard day's work, a lime at the workplace would be great, and even greater and better with KFC, with a wide choice of finger-licking meals in a wide range of sizes. Could be a birthday celebration or promotion, or a lime for no reason at all. Any lime, anytime, anywhere is better and tastier with a delicious meal from any of KFC's 9 locations, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence, open now from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
With the news at this time, I am Ruth Wilson. Good evening. And now the news in detail. The Caribbean Community CARICOM headquarters will soon be providing solar-generated electricity to the Guyana Power and Light. This announcement was made at the official commissioning of a 400-megawatt solar farm in the compound of the CARICOM headquarters at Liliendal, Greater Georgetown. The cost of the solar farm is $7 million and was funded by the government of Japan. CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett says the Secretariat and GPL will have to work out a formal agreement.
This PV power generation system is expected to generate more electricity than is required by the Secretariat for its operation on an annual basis. And the expectation is that the available excess energy would feed into the utility grid during its off-peak operation periods. The Secretariat is seeking to conclude the arrangements which will attend the bidirectional flow of electricity with GPL in this quarter.
CARICOM Deputy Secretary General Dr. Armstrong Alexis says the solar energy electricity generation project will be used as a model for renewable energy.
The CARICOM Secretariat considers itself fortunate to be the recipient of such an elaborate infrastructure that will lead towards the reduction in the amount of CO2 emissions produced in the region. As we work towards reducing our carbon footprint, the outcome of this project will also strengthen our case in the international community, as we will have the results of this project as evidence that we can present on our contribution to achieving energy efficiency in the Caribbean.
CARICOM Deputy Secretary General Dr. Armstrong Alexis. Prime Minister Mark Phillips this afternoon fended off criticisms that the government has been turning a blind eye to mass gathering events with connections to the administration. Several days ago, the Minister of Public Works, Juan Edgell, and Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, Charles Ramson, were at the overcrowded National Sports Hall for a futsal football game. The Prime Minister says the National COVID-19 Task Force can impose sanctions on the organizers of the football game. Importantly, he did not say that the organizers of the futsal game will be punished.
The board will be free of...
No, the government did not turn a blind eye. The government granted approval for these activities with the understanding that the organizers, right, will follow the established protocols. If you go and see anyone in the correspondence granting approval, it speaks about approval being granted and the need to follow the protocols, right?
Failing which?
Failing which, we will act, which can involve sanctions.
Are you going to impose sanctions on the organizers?
Failing which, we will act, which can involve sanctions.
Prime Minister Phillips says the government is committed to investigating and taking reports of all breaches of the COVID-19 protocols. President Irfan Ali says that no politician will be placed on the board of the Natural Resource Fund. He made known his concerns even as the opposition, a Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change, APNU-AFC, has called for greater civil society oversight. The coalition has also voiced concern that the new Natural Resources Fund Act now provides for the president to handpick and appoint most of the board directors. But the president says that no politicians will be appointed to the board.
The board will be free of politicians. Politicians are not only in the government. Since when politicians are only in the government? This is a board that will be representative of Guyana with certain specific skill set, and you will see that.
How soon the board will be appointed?
You will be shocked how soon.
Government has reduced the Oversight Committee from 22 to 9, something that the opposition coalition has vehemently opposed. The coalition is also worried that the formula for withdrawing the oil money from the fund opens the door for squandermania and corruption. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says fixed vaccination sites are being established on the coast. He says that mobile vaccination sites will be roving around the interior locations.
Still a lot of people who have not come forward to get their vaccines. So we have taken a decision where we're going to have fixed sites in all the regions so people know these sites are there. They can come anytime and get their vaccines there. And in addition to that, for some of the more challenging regions, geographically challenging regions, that in those regions we'll continue to have mobile teams. But on the coast here, we think it's important that we put fixed sites and publicize where those sites are so that people can come to them.
The health minister says so far the response to the fixed vaccination sites has been going well, with 3,225 persons getting vaccinated. Latest official statistics show that 18,982 persons have taken booster vaccines. The Roraima Airways pilot of the Britain Norman Trislander that landed in a swampy area near the Hagsbosch landfill site last year has been suspended, officials said Monday. This decision was made publicly by the Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, GCAA, retired Lieutenant Colonel Egbert Field.
Some penalties were applied to the operator and to the pilot involved, and those penalties have been activated, and the pilot is now undergoing or in suspension for that accident for a particular period.
That aircraft had been under the command of Captain Larry Barclay when it made an emergency landing on August 14, 2021. The plane, whose registration marking is 8RGRE, had been returning from Mbaimadai. Aviation Minister Juan Edgell gave one of the reasons for the crash landing of the plane, as it had been heading to the Eugene F. Correa Ogle International Airport.
I've received preliminary reports from all. Final reports are awaiting. For example, parts have been sent overseas for testing and for opinions from the manufacturers. For example, while we know the Hagsbosch accident there would have resulted as a result of fuel starvation, you don't guess your way east.
Aviation Minister Juan Edgell. You're still with us on News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. It is 18 hours 10. We now turn to news in the region. A Trinidad and Tobago policeman who misplaced a rifle has been charged with 2 counts of misbehavior in public office. Trinidad Newsday reports that Sergeant Hector Kwashi has since been granted more than $30,000 bail by a justice of the peace. The first charge alleged he misbehaved in public office by willfully neglecting or failing to secure the rifle, which was fitted with 2 magazines. The second charge alleges that he misbehaved in public office by willfully neglecting or failing to secure 70 rounds of 5.56 ammunition, all issued to the police service, being the property of the Trinidad and Tobago government. Kwashi is expected to reappear virtually in the Port of Spain Magistrates Court on February 10. A sergeant, a corporal, and 8 constables of the San Juan Substation Task Force were detained by Professional Standards Bureau officers. It was reported that on Christmas Eve, an officer was said to have left the weapon with 2 magazines. On returning, sometime later, he found them missing. Barbadians are not fully prepared for retirement. Central Bank of Barbados economist Lisa Brathwaite-Phillips says this suggests insufficient financial knowledge among the young and old. This was revealed in a new study examining the link between financial knowledge and retirement planning. The researcher observed that knowledge of basic financial products and concepts were reasonably observed. However, Barbados Nation also quotes her as saying that many individuals surveyed lack an understanding of more sophisticated concepts and products. She concluded, following an online survey of 170 respondents, that financial knowledge was found to have a positive impact on the level of retirement planning in Barbados. Three British Virgin Islands citizens are now facing the possibility of life in prison in the U.S. Virgin Islands, USVI, for more than 600 kilograms of cocaine. Prosecutors say that the narcotic was allegedly found in the vessel on which they were traveling. The U.S. Attorney's Office District of the Virgin Islands says the 3 BV Islanders were apprehended with the 4th person, a citizen of the Dominican Republic. They were charged with illegal possession of cocaine with intent to distribute after the vessel was apprehended by USVI law enforcement off the shores of St. Croix. The U.S. says the 32-foot-long vessel was intercepted on January 9. Those before the court are the captain of the vessel, British Virgin Islands resident Shannon John, passengers Sean John and Emmanuel Tolentino Lebron, both also from the BVI, and Augusto Rodriguez Molina, a citizen of the Dominican Republic. Federal authorities say the located approximately 667 kilograms of cocaine were packaged in approximately 20 block-shaped bales on board. Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Davis, says his government is still aiming to reopen schools for face-to-face learning within 2 weeks. At the same time, he says the decision will ultimately depend partly on advice from health officials. The Bahamian leader says that schools have been closed because there are no vaccines for children. Mr. Davis toured several schools under renovation yesterday with Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin and Works Minister Alfred Sears. Officials had planned to reopen public schools in the second week of January with a hybrid model involving face-to-face instruction. However, in late December, Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville said the resumption of face-to-face learning in public schools had been postponed by at least 2 weeks as officials grappled with the 4th wave of COVID-19. The Ministry of Education later said all public and private schools could only reopen this month on a fully virtual basis. This does not apply to daycare centers. The ministry said this decision would be revisited within 14 days, at which time a further assessment will be conducted in conjunction with the Ministry of Health. At 18 hours 14, we now bring you international news from the BBC.
Hello, I'm Eileen McHugh with the BBC News. President Biden is in Atlanta in Georgia, where he's making a key address calling for voting rights reforms. He's expected to support federal legislation aimed at reversing moves by the Republicans to create additional voting hurdles at the state level. The president spoke to reporters as he left Washington.
This is one of those defining moments. It really is. People are going to be judged. Where were they before and where were they after the vote? History's going to judge it. It's that consequential. And so the risk is making sure people understand just how important this is.
Mr. Biden has been under intense pressure from his own party to push for such reforms, but some leading activists are staying away from his address. Here's Gary O'Donoghue.
I think this is an indication, if you like, that the reality of what's happening and that this thing is not going to get through in the Senate means that some of these groups and individuals don't want to be part of that failure. They don't want to be part of that process that has a big sort of jamboree in Atlanta and a big speech, and then it all comes crashing down 2 or 3 days later in the Senate.
The World Health Organization has warned that a tidal wave of Omicron coronavirus cases is sweeping across Europe. A senior official, Dr. Hans-Henry Kluge, said half the continent's population will have been infected within 6 to 8 weeks. Our global health correspondent, Naomi Grimley, says the surge in Europe isn't being replicated everywhere.
We are seeing it spread very quickly in the US at the moment. But then if you look at other parts of the world, including African countries, some countries are still seeing Delta alongside Omicron. And even in some cases, Delta still has the upper hand. So you can't make hard and fast rules. Obviously, it depends on things like climate. And also, of course, particularly in winter, developed countries involves huddling indoors a lot. And that's why we're seeing such a problem in Europe at the moment.
The official anti-corruption agency in Liberia says it's placed the entire leadership of the Ministry of Agriculture under investigation. It said this was due to the inappropriate awarding of millions of dollars worth of contracts. Liberia's agriculture minister told the BBC the ministry was ready to cooperate. Scientists have warned that the warming climate is likely to have an increasingly devastating impact on buildings and infrastructure built near the Arctic Circle. They say the thawing of the permafrost, a permanently frozen layer of soil, has already caused significant damage to homes, pipelines and roads. Most of the impact is in Russia. Jan Hjort is the report's lead author.
This is happening already. It has happened over several decades already, and it's happening now, and it will maybe be even happening at faster pace in the future. So there could be more damages.
World News from the BBC. The authorities in Burkina Faso have announced the arrest of 8 soldiers who are accused of plotting a coup. Among those detained is Colonel Mohamed Emmanuel Zungrana, a well-known former army commander who has reportedly been critical of the government. The last coup in Burkina Faso took place 7 years ago. It's emerged in the US that the Federal Aviation Administration instructed airports on the West Coast to halt departures on Monday night, moments after confirmation that North Korea had carried out a ballistic missile test. An aviation official, without referring to the launch, said the shutdown lasted for less than 15 minutes. The projectile, fired by North Korea, is believed to have plunged into the sea east of the Korean peninsula. The UN is calling on the Tunisian authorities to either release or properly charge the country's former justice minister. Noureddin Beheri has been detained for suspected terrorism offences. He remains in hospital under guard. Tunisia's President Kais Saied suspended Parliament last July and began ruling by decree in a move opponents branded as a coup. Liz Throssell is a UN spokeswoman.
On the morning of the 31st of December, men in civilian clothing bundled Noureddin Biri, an MP for the Ennahda party and a former justice minister, into a car outside his home, with no warrant and no explanation given. He was taken to a number of undisclosed places of detention, and for several hours his family and lawyer did not know his whereabouts.
A Lebanese judge has imposed a travel ban on the governor of Lebanon's central bank as part of a major embezzlement investigation. Riyad Salameh is being investigated by authorities in at least 4 European countries. They include a Swiss inquiry into alleged aggravated money laundering involving $300 million. Mr. Salameh has repeatedly denied the charges. And that's the latest BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
After a hard day's work, delicious comfort food is all we crave for. There at KFC, they've got you covered with a wide choice of delicious, finger-licking good meals from any of their 9 locations, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence. And there are 6 drive-through locations for your convenience. Their 11 herbs and spices are sure to blow those post-work vibes away every time. It's the perfect way to end a hard day. KFC.
It's finger licking good.
To end the news, here's a recap of the highlights. The CARICOM Secretariat will soon be supplying the Guyana Power and Light with extra solar-generated electricity. The Prime Minister is denying that the National COVID Task Force is ignoring certain mass-attended events that are associated with the government. In the region, a Trinidad and Tobago policeman has been charged with misbehavior in public office after a rifle and ammunition went missing. And the Bahamas government is not in a hurry to reopen schools. The news came to you compliments of KFC. It's finger licking good.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.